Thank you, Mr. Jaffer. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Jaffer. Bishop Sanchez, Bishop Alistair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here. Thanks to Raza for inviting me here. And I'll be very brief. First of all, I think this whole focus on sustainable development and the goals which we have, and we'll talk about Goal 8 through the rest of the day, is to me a really out-of-the-box way of looking at some of the issues which the world faces. May I also say that these, the challenges we are trying to address through the SDGs are not the exclusive preserve of developing countries. I say this because in many forums I go to, people think it's just a problem in the developing world. I think those of you and those of us I've lived in 10, 12 countries myself from all parts of the world, that the problem is much more global than people realize. It's not just an emerging markets problem. Whether you're in Manhattan, whether you are in Karachi, whether you are in any other part of the world, those problems exist. We have to have the vision to see these issues and resolve them. Number two, I think the word I would like to leave with everybody in the room is what we should look for when you're looking at a country or the world in terms of economic development is, if there's one word I can leave with everybody today, it's called inclusive growth. That's two words, actually. In government, we look at performances, aggregate numbers, etc. Even per capita income is not a good judge of what the level of poverty is. And most people quote these around without realizing that it's just it's a mathematical number, but there's no granularity in it. So to address the issue of poverty, address the issue of lack of availability of basic facilities, we have to go deeper. And to me, the single most important priority in addressing poverty, addressing slavery, addressing all the issues of sustainability is we should get inclusive growth. Also, the biggest weakness I found in only 8 years in government, and before that 30 years in the private sector, in all over the world, United States principally, is the ability to implement. Every country has great policies, great speeches, great everything, but the ability to implement. So if there's another piece of advice I would share with everybody is, please emphasize whenever this issue is discussed, how you'll implement, what is the best way. And the other thing which comes with it is governments are no longer the solution to every challenge we face. We have to mobilize civil society. We have to mobilize the religious institutions, the commercial people, the educationists. We have to take a holistic view. That makes it much more effective, but much more complicated, because you could have everybody running in different directions. So somewhere along the system, we need to generate interest and generate. And when I was running our country, it's a small country of 200 million people, my biggest challenge was, how do I get action where the rubber meets the road? Giving speeches on television will not get you there. So I would just conclude in saying that what we have to really focus on when it comes to slavery, when it comes to sustainability and improving quality of growth, not just growth, is each government must craft out their own reform agenda, create ownership with the masses. Once they get ownership, then you'll get traction. I know a lot of programs which run with no traction. So where the rubber meets the road, we have to change certain things so that we get there. And in terms of the current effort, may I take this opportunity to congratulate Raza for bringing us all together, and Bishop Sanchez and Bishop Alistair for spending the time every time we meet. I would just say that if we want peace, progress, and prosperity, fighting poverty, fighting slavery, and all these ills which surround us, there cannot be a better priority. And all the time we spend on it will be time well spent. And if we do that, then we'll really have what we called earlier inclusive growth. And lastly, let me say, since we are here today, that coming to the Vatican is always a very awesome feeling I get. And I would again reiterate that if we can also focus on interfaith harmony, more understanding with each other, more understanding each other's faiths, so that faith becomes less of a divider, but in fact becomes an enabler. And that's the responsibility of all of us, to bring us all together. And then once we do that, we can fight slavery, we can improve sustainability, and we can have a world which we'll be proud to bequeath to our coming generations. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.